Hi there, it's Ian here, and you're watching Grumpy Opinions, the show where I'm going to tell you all about what I think of films, TV shows, games, and life in general. Let's get on with the show. Outlander is the historical TV drama show from Starz, all about Claire and Jamie Fraser, a couple once separated by time, and now by several miles of ocean because they're on different ships crossing the Atlantic in the 1760s. Episode 10, Heaven and Earth, finds us back on board the Artemis, and Jamie and Fergus are chatting about potpourri, and then they notice that the porpoise is setting sail. So Jamie ends up getting his boss face on and orders to make chase, and then the captain pops out and tells him, nope, they're going to follow at safe speed, since he's already been promised that they're going to send Claire back to them in Jamaica. Now Jamie isn't having this and gets up in the cap's face, and that's a bad move in general on the ship, because the Highlanders are totally outnumbered by the shipsmen. Now, Jamie backs down and ends up being locked below with his seasickness acting up on him. And he's got some serious separation anxiety with Claire, and he wants Fergus to break him out and take control of the ship, maybe ditch all of Jared's wine so they can move faster and catch up to the porpoise. And then, who knows? But even Fergus can see that this is kind of a daft plan, and he says no. And then Jamie emotionally blackmails him a bit and promises him that he'll get his blessing to marry Parsley. Now, Fergus ends up having a chat with Marsley about it, and she's not entirely happy about him being involved with the mutiny, as she waxes up his stump or whatever she's doing. And it's been an episode since anyone had any sexy time, so they start to go at it, but they only start because Fergus is all about waiting for marriage, so he ends up popping off and leaves Parsley unpicked. And he stows away to find those keys to Jamie's cell, but then he overhears the crew plotting about, locking Jamie up forever, and then maybe raping Marsley. So then he tells Jamie that the deal's off because it's too dangerous, and that even without Jamie's blessing, he's got to look out for his lady, and for him too. And that night the captain comes down and tells Jamie that he can go free as long as he swears to behave, because they know he's good for his word, and they need every able man to get the ship to port safely. Meanwhile, on the pukey ship Porpoise, Claire is ordering folk about and the surly crew aren't happy about it, but luckily there's like a newborn child in uniform who's ready to back her up at all times. And she sets up a good system, folks washing their hands in grog, even though midshipman Peach Fuzz can't help sucking his rummy fingers. But then he gets her a new wee hat to make up for him being silly and points her at some press-ganged Edinburgh dudes, and they can brew up like straight rubbing alcohol from the booze, so they'll be able to disinfect themselves better. And they're getting on so well that Claire decides to set aside protocol and start calling Poundy Peach Fuzz by his first name, since, he's not long been born and he's a friend, clearly. And telling him that he's a good lad, so maybe make him fancy or get on her side. And then he sees a dead pal and closes his eyes and starts to rub his tankard. Ooh. And doing a bit of investigating, Claire finds out that all this bokeh badness seems to come from a few guys, and all of them are dead but one, and he works in the galley now, which is, a bad idea, since even though he looks fine, he might still have the disease. But the cook's not happy about this, because obviously he doesn't want to lose the galley man and thinks that the guy's okay. And even less so, like when, she convinces the captain to lock the guy up. And the death count keeps rising, and Peach Fuzz is like sewing his pal up in a sack before a grand funeral. And that night, the angry cook comes to grumble about the amount of dead folk, but then PF comes to her rescue, and she gives him a bit of future psychology, and he gives her like a lucky rabbit's foot. And then the goat man gets ill, but it turns out to be from drinking the straight booze, and Claire gets a wee bit pissed off, but somehow then befriends his wife. But while she's down there, she sees a Portuguese flag, and she guesses it might be from the Bruja, the ship that stole wee Ian. And so rushing to the captain's room, finds him gone, but checks his journal and sees that it's not the right ship, but she realises that there's a guy on board who knows who Jamie is and has already told the captain, and that means she's in trouble, and so's Jamie. And just then, the grumpy cook comes in, and it's clear that he thinks that it's showdown time, so Claire threatens to make rape accusations, so he lets her go. And after that, wee Pound starts looking peaky, but she sets him to look for the man in the captain's ledger. Turns out that he's only Squinty McBad-Eye from the other week, and he's quite happy to confess all since his life's completely gone to poop now. And it turns out that they found the creme de menthe dead guy, and that Jamie's in some serious bother now, not only for sedition but for murder. And Claire's just, has the guy locked up as a potential carrier of the plague instead of killing him. And then she enlists the mad goat woman to help her escape. See, things start to perk up because the crew's getting better. So, while Claire's up on deck, she finds Peach Fuzzy Pound all sorts of ill. And then he dies super fast, almost immediately. So she pops his lucky rabbit's foot back in and then sews his bag up just before he gets popped into the drink. And then they go ashore for water at a nearby island, and the goats need some grass. So Claire goes along and makes a bid for freedom, really quite slowly walking over the hillside. But then she runs smack back into the captain, who's making sure the crew didn't go a-whoring while they're near land. And then she's taken back to the ship. But luckily, during the night, Data Sex Annika tells her to jump overboard with a couple of barrels and some money and swim to shore. And Claire's gung-ho seems to be running a bit low, so she takes a bit of convincing, but finally, she strips down a bit and then sets off, taking the plunge. So, what did I think? Well, I thought this week was another nice departure from the traditional look of Outlander, and a good wee transition from Scotland into the New World, as we've now kind of gotten used to these blue seas and scorching sun, as well as growing familiar with the wet, creaking wood of these ships. I mean, it was good to see Claire doing a bit of investigation and trying to work her way to the root of all the contagion, and I really liked that a lot, and I would have kind of enjoyed more of that kind of thing, that sort of, you know, finding out what was going on, sort of outbreak, sort of looking for the person who started it all off. I mean, the lovely bit where she started swearing and that totally endeared her to all the sailors. I mean, that was great. That really kind of felt sort of real and sensible. And it was really good to see Fungus and Parsley developing into a bit proper characters. You know, they've got thoughts and feelings of their own, and they're not just props to facilitate Jamie and Claire's story. I mean, I was really worried at first that Fergus was just going to blindly follow Jamie's orders, and the episode would turn into some kind of silly mess of daftness with him taking over the ship and becoming the new captain and heroically charging after Claire. But quite rightly, Fergus realised this plan was just kind of nuts and would never work. But oh my, there were a few things this week that gave me pause. Starting off with Jamie. I mean, let's be honest, this wasn't his finest hour. I mean, this wasn't even his finest imprisoned hour. This was Jamie reduced to a grumpy old man sitting whining in a cage. I mean, ready to doom everybody just to make his heroic rescue of Claire, rather than putting his head down and trying to come up with some sensible way out of the situation. And frankly, it made me want to see less of him and more to see of Fergus saying no. Now, on the other ship, we've got Claire, and it's sad to say, we've got a bit of the usual Claire TV show problem, with her being aloof, and because we can't see inside her head, she just seems like she's bossing people about and with absolutely no regard for the time and the situation that she's in. I mean, it's a bit like Claire just makes no attempt to fit into the century that she's chosen to live in, and as a result, the show has to fashion like new ways for things to work around her rather than succeeding through her actions. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, let's take Peach Fuzz plot device Pound Boy. Now, she's assigned the youngest officer in the boat, this little boy, who instantly warms to her and seems to take her on as some kind of maternal figure because, his mum died, as he says. Now, he's daft enough to do absolutely anything she says without any question because he's only young, but he's also an officer, so he's able to, tell the crewmen off and the cook when they don't agree with her or when they start bossing her around or something like that, and he just goes, no, I'm not having that. Now, honestly, I mean, that happens 3 or 4 times in the episode. Whenever something came up, he would just walk up and go, no, that's enough. And he also, the awfully young, similarly captain, also, if he'd assigned her some kind of grumpy old sea dog, then there'd be no way she'd have been completely scuppered because he would have just said, nope. But the story doesn't allow that. And so it comes across as a contrivance because she's not thinking her way around problems. She's just having somebody else step in every time that she says, do this, and somebody says, why should I do this? Somebody else steps up and goes, do as the lady says. Now, that doesn't give her any power in the story. It doesn't give her any agency. It means that the agency actually comes from him. And to be honest, they should do better than that. Similarly, there was a problem with Deus Ex Annika, the goat lady who randomly appears halfway through the episode and seems to just like Claire for no reason. I mean, and she likes her so much that she's willing to help her escape and then give her money and stuff with absolutely no reason in the show for that to happen. I mean, all we've seen this girl do is, look after some goats, and then her husband gets drunk and Claire shouts and swears a wee bit, and then suddenly the woman really likes her. I mean, after that one broken conversation they have, suddenly they're best pals and the girl's going to help her escape. I mean, I'm presuming that there's some kind of subplot here that's been missed out. I mean, book readers, please, if there's something else that's here in the books that isn't here, what was going on? Because for me, none of that made any sense. And on top of that, we kind of do need to talk about Claire. I mean, really. I mean, when was Claire this bad and nasty? I mean, let's face it. First, she isolates the guy who might be the cause of the plague, and that's fair enough. And I don't know what's going to happen to him, but it could be something bad. But that's understandable. But then when Squinty McBad-Eye comes along, she gets him locked up and says that he's also a carrier. Now, that guy's already had a pretty bad time of it, and I'm guessing both of them are probably going to be hung or chucked in the sea or something for having the plague. Now, that seems a bit shan, but especially for the cook's assistant who's done nothing wrong. But let's face it, what exactly has Squinty McBad-Eye done? I mean, he worked for the excisemen, and he's just doing his job. And as far as he's concerned, he's up against smugglers and seditionists, who are bad people. And all he done really in the plot to make us dislike him is accidentally set fire to the print shop. Now remember, he was working on behalf of the law when that happened. He found seditious materials and accidentally set the place on fire when he was fighting with Ian, who he told Ian just to go away and leave him alone and let him get on with it. Now, as a result of that, he's been press ganged, and he's now going to be locked up in a cage right near a man with typhoid by a doctor, no less, who knows that he could catch it and die horribly. I mean, she could literally be condemning him to a horrible death. I mean, let's also not forget that she kind of threatened to make a false rape accusation against the cook. I mean, and the cook, he's just a grumpy old man. He's not actually done anything bad to her at all, other than grump at her because he sussed out that there's something not quite right about her. And then he rightly tried to find out why she was snooping around in the captain's room, which she shouldn't have been in. And then she turns around and basically says, "Oh, well, I'm going to tell everyone that you raped me." And he's like, "Well, don't do that." And then she runs away. And I mean, really, to compound it all, the other thing she did is she took away the rabbit's foot from Little Pound Boy. You know, she might as well have signed his own death warrant. That could have been the only thing lucky keeping him from getting the plague. And she's a witch. She's a white witch. She should know better. Okay, I'm kidding. But damn, I mean, Claire got all sorts of mean and tough this week. And it was a very interesting one, and I'm curious to see where it's going to lead. I mean, it's showing that she's getting resourceful and stuff, but she does seem to now have a bit of a nasty streak in her, and I'm not sure where that came from. It didn't feel like it was really set up. But anyway, I hope next week is a bit more meaty and a bit more kind of viscerally interesting, because I'm a bit done to death with ships and sitting about in plague and stuff like that. I could do with some, actual action in the show. So until next week, I've been Ian, and these have been my grumpy opinions.